Hey, what do you say? Here we go with another show. It's a different look today, folks. I'm doing this from home. I'm in my pajamas, as you can see. I've got hat hair, so I've put my hat on because it was a late night and a long weekend and a kind of an interesting, frustrating game. But I want to welcome everybody to the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark. I'm ex-Philadelphia Eagles, Philadelphia Stars tight end Ken Dunek, and my partner is the longtime Eagles beat writer, Mark Eckel. Mark, did you last through the whole game? Be honest. Did you finish it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm a night
You're
person.
tougher than I am. I finished it at 5 o'clock this morning. I can't.
Well, it didn't change, right? The Eagles still won, right?
The Eagles still won. Yeah. But it's we're going to talk at length about what went on last night. Listen, a win is a win, and
Right.
as Edwards, you play to win the game, and Herm was right about that. But a frustrating game. Eagles got some issues. We're going to talk about everything with a special guest. Eliot Shorr-Parks covers the Eagles for WIP, and he'll be joining us. Before we do that, let me get started by thanking our sponsors. First of all, again, we're doing this remotely today, but normally we do it at the Suite Recording Studios in Mount Laurel. And Joe Gangemi can't take care of you. Everybody's doing a podcast, so contact Joe if you want to do that. Joe at sweetrecording.com. Chris Wilhelm is with Citywide Mortgage, and he can handle all of your home mortgage needs. Chris is the consummate professional, great Eagles fan, good Jersey Man member. And please support Chris by calling 609-234-4304 with any mortgage questions you may have. Anthony DiGirolamo, DiGirolamo Financial. Not only does Anthony do insurance, he does financial plans as well for you. So it's a one-stop shop for all your financial needs. Contact Anthony at 609-541-7515. That's Anthony DiGirolamo, 609-541-7515. And Adjust Your Sleep Mattress Boutique is located in Marlton, New Jersey. Kelly Wernersbach is a wonderful lady, and she can take care of all they have everything there. They have mattress pads. They have beds that go up and down. They've got, it's just an amazing place that you should stop by and visit. Call Kelly at 856-357-3640 and take your sleep to Super Bowl status. Okay, with that, we're going to bring in our special guest, Eliot Shorr-Parks. Eliot, how are you? Welcome.
What's up? Thanks for having me on. Anytime I get to talk Eagles with someone on the Mount Rushmore of Eagles beat writers, I can't say no. So I'm happy to be here.
You scared me there. I thought you were going to say the Mount Rushmore of players. I was going to say that would have to be a pretty big Mount Rushmore if you include.
All I know about Eliot, I don't know if you're aware of this because a lot of people aren't, but Ken played professional football for 4 seasons.
Right.
All 4 seasons, his team went to the championship game. He went to the Super Bowl with the Eagles in '80 and 3 USFL title games with the Stars. There's guys that played 20 years in this league, never went to the playoffs once maybe. Guy went to 4 championships.
Ellie, you know what that means? I'm the best. I'm the worst player with the most jewelry in pro football.
You're the Nick Sirianni of Eagles players.
I got a lot of rings and watches out of the deal anyway. So
you don't know what it's like to lose. You never.
Well, believe me, I've lost in many other areas.
Well, the blackjack table doesn't count.
Yeah, right. So listen, a long, kind of a frustrating game. I'm going to ask both of you for your opinion. I thought it was a good game if you like the following. Obviously, defensive football. The Eagles played really well on defense. Both offenses were inept. Now, a lot of it had to do with the wind. And if you ask any quarterback, they can handle snow, they can handle rain, but wind is really, really tricky. So it's hard to get any continuity on offense. I thought both sides should be arrested for some of the coaching decisions they made. I think I was astounded that Nick went for that at the end of the game from his own 30. I don't care how good the tush push is. It can be stopped, and it was. And that decision could have cost you the game. And it might have cost us the game if it wasn't for one of the worst pass interference calls I've ever seen. There's got to be a common sense thread here. How about a ref upstairs looking at that play going, hey, pick up the flag, man. That's not pass interference. If replay is supposed to get the call right, well, let's get it right. Let's use some common sense there. And then the commercials, the game just drug on and on. So much that I fell asleep at halftime, and I got up this morning and went, oh, I'm old. But anyway, let's start with you, Mark. What were your impressions of that Eagles?
Well, from what you said, I wasn't surprised that Sirianni went for it, because that's what he does. He just,
from your own 30.
I listen. I wouldn't have.
Up 10 with 3 minutes to go.
Listen, I'm saying I wouldn't have done that. There's
It's
a lot
gonna
of things
cost
that
him
I
game.
wouldn't do.
It will cost him a game down the road, I promise you.
Well, it cost him Atlanta last year, but he wins. I mean, I
understand.
It's hard to criticize the guy when all he does is win.
No, I can
he
criticize
does
that.
things that
I can criticize.
Old time guys like us look at and say, "What the hell?" But it didn't work last night, and but he's going to be aggressive. That's what he does. So I wasn't surprised in the least. Nothing he does surprises me. Now Dan Campbell, I thought messed. He went 0 for 5 on 4th down.
Terrible. He goes for it in the first half from his side of the 50.
Yeah, I mean field position on a night like that.
Exactly.
Going to be low scoring.
Exactly.
Elliot, I'm going to ask you. The wind. I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, you see the flags blowing around.
Yeah.
You're there. The wind was obviously a factor. I mean,
so it was definitely a factor. I thought the wind last night and the week before in Green Bay definitely played a role. But my thing is, this team's supposed to be better than the wind, right? I mean, like the skill players on offense are supposed to be the best skill players in the NFL. I think anybody that watched the game last night, it was very clear the two best offensive skill players on that field last night were Jahmyr Gibbs and Williams. Like, I just think, we have a lot to get into. We can talk about the 4th down thing, but ultimately, when it comes to this Eagles offense, they might just not be as talented as we think they are. I think we view
what
them.
happened? They were last year.
I think the players are a year older. I think they are worn down from all the snaps last year. You look at the players on defense, it's a lot of new guys. Like Jalen Phillips wasn't on that Super Bowl run last year. Jalix Hunt is didn't play a ton of snaps last year. Moro Jomo didn't play a ton of snaps last year. Makuba wasn't here. Jahad Campbell wasn't here. So they have a lot of guys. Like Nakobe's fresh. He just came back from injury. So on defense, I don't think they're suffering from a Super Bowl hangover because there are a lot of new guys. On offense, they just look tired. They look older. They look slow. And they never have a game with all 5 offensive linemen playing. There's only been one game this year where their starting 5 offensive linemen have played all the snaps. So I think that the offense, we might just need to recalibrate what we view as the expectation for them. They should be better than they were the past 2 games for sure. But maybe they're not going to be a top 10 offense this year. They just might not be.
Speaking of injuries, Elliot, any late word on what's going on with Lane Johnson? I know Cam Jurgens left the game late as well last night.
Yeah, I mean, Lane seems to be in his Jason Peters era here, where every game he's
don't get Mark started on Jason Peters, please.
Yeah, I loved him until he kept stealing money at the end.
I think he's kind of an overrated Eagle, but that's a discussion for a different day. But I think with Lane, he's just going to be in and out of games this year. Now, earlier in the year, they gave Landon Dickerson a game off, and then there was the bye week, so he got some time to heal, and he has been better ever since. I think Lane could benefit from a game off. They have 2 games in a short span here. They have Dallas, then they have Chicago on that Black Friday. Now, the issue is whenever Lane doesn't play, the entire team takes a huge step back. So I'm not trying to say just don't play him, but I think he needs some time for the playoff run.
And what about Jurgens? Any word on what happened to him at the end of the game?
Yeah, so Jurgens, similar. He has also been on and off the field this year. He's had a back injury that he had surgery for in the offseason. He now has a leg injury he's dealing with that caused him to wear the knee brace last night. Didn't see him in the locker room last night. Didn't see Lane in the locker room, which normally is not a good indication of how these guys are feeling. The good news is Brett Toth has actually, I think, played pretty well coming in and playing for Cam. But I think it's 50-50 at best that those guys are out on the field. The next game, although I will say, and Mark, you'll appreciate this, I do like the players lounge on WIP, which I know you used to do, where you have the player, and Cam is on it tonight. So I don't think if it was anything serious, he would be doing it. So I think that's a little noteworthy.
I really thought the MVP for the Eagles. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
I was going to ask, you mentioned that the offense, and that was great points about all the snaps and all the plays, and that's why the defense is fresher. Is the defense good? Can they win? I don't mean beating the Cowboys next week. Can they win? Can they get back to the Super Bowl if the offense doesn't pick up? Can the defense carry them beating whoever the Rams to see whoever they have to play along the way?
I think so. I also think so. First of all, I do think the defense is good enough to carry them to a Super Bowl.
Okay.
I'm not as impressed with the NFC as other people are. I ultimately would rather go through the quarterbacks in the NFC than the quarterbacks in the AFC. I know the teams are better, but everyone told me Seattle was awesome, and we saw what Darnold did yesterday. So I don't take them seriously. The Packers, hate to say this, don't strike me as legitimate contenders. And so it's really the Lions and the Rams. Now the
Well,
issue with the Rams,
the
the
Lions
the
are.
Oh,
yeah.
indoors, Mark. You don't want to play the
Yeah.
Lions indoors. I can
Well,
tell
and
you.
that's the key is now if the Eagles play them,
Right.
more than likely it'll be outside. And
Goff
that'll
can't play outside.
exactly. And more than
The
likely
Rams are
the
the team.
Rams. The
The
Rams are
Rams are
the
the team.
team. Now the Rams could legitimately overtake the Eagles for the 1 seed. I think they're tied right now for record.
Right.
So but the Eagles own the tiebreaker because they beat them earlier in the year. So when I think about can the Eagles go to the Super Bowl, it really comes down to this. Do I think any of these teams will go into Philadelphia and beat the Eagles? And I just don't think so. The concern would be if they have to go to LA, then it's, you're indoors, there's no weather. We know that offense can really score. Then I don't think it's fair to ask the defense to take them to the Super Bowl. But in Philadelphia, yeah, I think this defense is playing well enough that I would not pick the Eagles to lose to any NFC team in the playoffs.
I really thought the MVP last night was Jake Elliott. Those kicks in that win were solid, man.
Yeah.
And points were at a premium last night in a defensive game in those weather conditions. And I thought he came up big. Elliot, there were many reasons why I was excited to have you on, but can you break down what's going on with all the AJ Brown noise? I mean, how much of it is contrived? Is it time for this to be over? It seems once it dies, he seems to kind of bring it up again. And everybody gets all, so what's the inside scoop about what's going on?
So the best way I can describe the AJ thing is like what you read about him is mostly true. Like he's not happy with his involvement in the offense. I don't think he has the best relationship with the quarterback. I think that he would, if you asked him today, he would seriously consider playing for the New England Patriots, right? Like I think there is interest in being on a team that throws it more and throws it better for sure. But the other thing that's true about AJ is he is not like Terrell Owens in 05. T.O. was willing to blow that team up. And obviously Mark can talk about that. To me, T.O. jumps in the pool full steam ahead. AJ likes to dip his feet in the water, but then when the water gets hot, he kind of backs out. Like AJ does not want to blow this up. AJ's a good teammate. I'm in that locker room every day. I can't tell you how many players stop by AJ's locker and talk to him, whether it's a defensive player, a running back, an offensive lineman, an edge. Like he's tight with guys on the team. And AJ is a diva receiver without doing almost anything that diva receivers do, if that makes sense. Like he does some of it, but having been around the guy since he's gotten here, the best thing I can say about him is I would welcome him on my team if I was a head coach or a GM. That being said, I don't know if physically he's the same guy. So I think the issue with AJ is not this off the field stuff. Like I love reality TV, so it's interesting to me, but I don't think it really impacts the team in any way. I think they mostly view it as just a slight annoyance that they know how to handle. But last night, anyone that watched that game saw it was not easy to get AJ the ball. When they did it, it wasn't super effective. He had 11 targets that totaled 49 yards. Like
7 catches, 49 yards.
Yeah, like it looked painful to me watch them trying to get AJ involved. And so I think that's the bigger concern than the off the field stuff.
Well, you mentioned the relationship between him and Hurts. What's the problem? Just that he's not getting the ball enough, or is there a personality thing there too?
It's if I could get one question answered about the Eagles and get the ultimate truth, that's what I would ask. All I would say is I know when he was traded here, they were portrayed as super close friends. They were FaceTiming each other, that you saw them in photos all the time together. They worked out together. I hardly, if ever, see Jalen and AJ interact on the sideline in games, in the locker room, at practice. I just don't see it. Now, that doesn't mean it's not happening. Like they're in meetings together and I'm sure they talk, but I think a key indicator of where this is at is two things. One, if you remember a few weeks ago against the Broncos, there was that play that was overthrown by Jalen down the middle of the field. It ended up being a big one that cost them. And I asked both Jalen and AJ, did you guys talk after that play about like adjustments or whatever? And both of them essentially said no. AJ straight up said no. Jalen kind of dodged the question.
Crazy.
So they just don't talk a ton. And it's definitely not good, but they win all the time. So it's hard for me to say it's like a huge issue that's holding them back.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because people. It's funny you brought up the TO thing because I went through that, and people. I've been asked that by people, some people in the media, some fans, whatever. Just is AJ like TO? And I said, I don't know AJ at all, but no, I
Yeah.
mean, TO ripped everybody possible, and with the
Yeah.
Eagles that year, I'm not the guy that got sick in the Super Bowl. I'm not this. I'm not. He ripped. TO went out of his way to like insult like Joe Banner and Jeffrey. He wanted out. I don't think AJ might want out, but he's not. He's not making fun of Jalen. He's not ripping Barkley. He's not ripping
Yeah.
Nick. He's not. He's saying actually what he said last week. I agree almost 100% with. Yeah, we're winning and that's nice, but we got to play better. I mean, that's kind of what he said.
So I agree. My thing is like AJ, no one's asking you to continually fall on the sword publicly. You're right. What he's saying is true. The offense needs to play better, but I think at this point, the messenger, like he should not be the messenger at this point. He's done it enough times that I think people view it as a selfish thing as opposed to a productive thing. So yeah, the offense absolutely needs to play better. He should get the ball more. Everyone agrees with that. But if you do it multiple times over multiple seasons, it loses its impact, whereas opposed to if a Saquon were to say it or a Devontae. So I agree. Yes, AJ is correct, but I also think I've reached a point where it's like, and it's why Jeffrey talked to him out on the field.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That was breaking news last night.
Yeah.
Apparently, Lurie had a conversation with him, said no more.
That was interesting.
Well, and I thought the interesting part about that was Jeffrey did that publicly in front of all the reporters, and then they clearly leaked that AJ promised he wouldn't do any more on social media. I thought that was the Eagles saying, like, get on board or get out. It is, you have made it clear you won't do this anymore. We've made that public. You promised the owner of the team you wouldn't do it. So now if he does it again, I mean, I don't think there'll be any sympathy for AJ if he does it again.
Yeah, but what's the consequences if he does it again? Is it
they'll trade him? They'll trade him this offseason.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask that was my next question. What are the odds from, what percent chance do you think he's an Eagle in 2026?
So I think people overstate a little bit the chances that he's gone. I think it's assumed he won't be here. I think something has shifted a little bit where I thought that it used to be AJ would demand out and they'd have to convince him to stay. Now I think there's a better shot the Eagles are like, we'll trade you. It's fine. Like you don't want to be here. We'll trade you. So I'll be curious to see what other teams value AJ at. Are you getting? I don't think you're getting a first round pick.
No,
you're not
for wide receiver.
But are you? But if it's a third, I don't know. Is that even worth it?
No.
And as much as AJ is a topic of conversation, again, like he's popular in the locker room. They know how to manage him. They have him under contract. They won't not trade him because of the dead money, but the dead money, if you trade him, is not a fun thing to have to deal with. So I think there's a world where in the offseason, AJ sees what teams would be interested. The Eagles see what they could get, and both sides decide maybe it's better if we just stay together.
Well, here's the problem with trading disgruntled players is other teams know that there's a problem. They don't give you fair value for the player.
Exactly. Yeah.
It might have to be a player for player kind of thing, which happens more and more, especially with the Eagles. Maybe there's a guy on some other, you mentioned the Patriots because they were very hot for him at one point. And I think they still are.
He's a huge Patriots fan.
Well, Vrabel had him in Tennessee and was up.
Exactly.
I think Vrabel left Tennessee because they traded AJ Brown. I think that was the beginning, end of Vrabel there. But so maybe there's a guy on the Patriots that wasn't happy there, and who knows? I don't know the Patriots that well. I know they're playing well, but.
But the other part of it is like, would the Eagles rather trade him this offseason before his value like completely plummets?
Right.
Maybe there's an argument for, you get a third now, but a year from now you're getting a 5. And so I don't know. It's definitely
how many years are left on his contract?
I mean, it's hard to tell because there's always those dummy years. I feel like he maybe has 2 more real
years.
Yeah, but I'd have to look. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Hey, listen, let's talk about some good stuff. Saquon Barkley did have 83 yards on the ground last night on 26 carries. So
it's a monster game for him now.
3 yards. Yeah. But what do you think has been holding him back? Is it the age thing? Is it the offensive line thing getting older that you alluded to before? What are the problems there this season?
Well, it's weird because in training camp, I thought he looked unbelievable. He looked fast. He was dominating. And so, like, physically, he looked to me almost better than he did last year. In the season, that's obviously not happened. So I think it's a couple things. One, the players will tell you that opposing defenses basically play goal line defense against them at any part of the field. And so they have decided they're going to take away the running game. And it's hard when you have, run blitzes and 8 guys coming towards, like, it's just hard to run the ball, to have that many people to block, and everybody has to execute their block perfectly. If one guy messes up on 7 blockers, which is going to happen, then plays get blown up. So they'll tell you that's the problem. The other problem is their offensive line is smaller. Like, Tyler Seen is not as big as Mekhi Becton. That's
Right.
part of it. And they've been banged up. But I also think we're all being naive if we don't think part of this is just Saquon had 450 touches last year, and almost every running back that ever has that happened the next season struggles. And part of it is the offensive line too. The offensive line weren't touching the ball, but they were on the field for all those plays. They're big guys. Wear and tear certainly gets to them. So ultimately, I just think it's a result of last year. I don't think Saquon's as explosive as he was last year. The offensive line is banged up, and teams spent all offseason being like, how can we stop this Eagles running game? And they figured out how to do it. And where it really hurts them is late in games when they can't kill clock. So, yeah, it's definitely a problem, and I don't anticipate it being much better.
Let's talk about the defense a little bit. An outstanding. Hey, by the way, Howie Roseman and Vic Fangio should be arrested for robbery because getting Jalen Phillips for a later round pick. I mean, this kid is legit.
Yeah, I mean, they paid quite a price for him, but it worked out well. Yeah, for sure.
Listen, that was a good trade. It's probably the first one of the few. Listen, I know Howie's the greatest general manager to ever live, but he had a terrible offseason. Yeah, that's the first good player they brought in.
Well, he's had bad trade deadlines too.
That one's a good one.
So you say he's making up for the Jalen Reagor thing?
No, that's 100 years ago. He's making up for A.J. Dillon and Dorian Thompson-Robinson and all them that bum guard they got from Houston for Gardner Johnson.
Kenyon Green,
and all them bums he brought in that couldn't play dead.
But what's crazy
Jackson was okay last night finally, but
Phillips,
the thing with Phillips is he's a rental, right? You got to resign him.
He's a free agent, and I think
Miami was going to lose him and get nothing.
Yeah,
so Miami got a third,
for the Dolphins. Yeah, it was a good trade for the Dolphins. I mean, the Eagles paid a premium price, but the good news is they got a premium player. Yeah.
Yep.
So
if he can stay healthy now, he's had 2 major injuries in his career.
Yeah,
too.
And I think that'll impact what he gets as a free agent for sure. I mean, they might be better. They might be better on defense now than they were last year, as crazy as that sounds. Like, I think Jalen Phillips is a better player than Josh Sweat. I think Moro Jomo has played better than Milton Williams did last year. They have like 7 legit defensive linemen. The defensive line was not that good last year up until the very end. They were obviously dominant in the Super Bowl. I think Quinion is better than he was last year. Cooper is better than he was last year. They have better linebackers because of Jihad than they did last year. So I understand the last year's defense was unbelievable. This defense is certainly not accomplished what that defense accomplished, but I think this defense is just as dominant at its best as last year's defense.
Yeah, and Nakobe Dean played well last night. Zach Bond had 7 tackles. How about Jordan Davis? Have you ever interviewed Jordan Davis at his locker? That is one massive human being. I'm telling you. I don't know how a quarterback gets all over him.
Yeah, well, look, a lot of players seem massive to me, I will say. They're big dudes.
He's even extra massive.
Well, what's funny?
He batted, 3 passes down last night?
Yeah, he had 3 batted passes. Like, everyone talks about Nolan Smith being the next Brandon Graham. Jordan Davis is the next Brandon Graham. From a personality perspective, not a great start to his career, has rebounded from that. Is a super productive player. Like, his locker is even next to Brandon's in the link, and like you can just tell after games, just like Brandon used to hold court and talk for the defense. Now Jordan does it. So Jordan I didn't like the draft pick at the time. I don't think you take a nose tackle at 13, but he off the field brings a lot to this team, and now on the field is much better than he was early in his career. So yeah, he's a really good player. And again, he's someone else. He's much better than he was last year.
Is he? Like, it's funny you compare him to Brandon Graham, because my take on Brandon Graham, and that's the only guy, I know him and Lane are the only 2 guys that I actually covered. Graham was his personality was such that you attracted to. I mean, I was going to ask you that, because the defense is young. It's good, like you said, very good. But they're all the guys that you mentioned are pretty young and or new to the team. Is Jordan the leader of that defense now? Is he the guy that you go, not just from the media standpoint, but do young guys go to him for advice and stuff?
I don't know. I don't know if he's the guy that gets everyone in a huddle and like talks sense into him in like a something has to be said way. I don't know if that's him, but I do think he is very popular amongst the Georgia players, which first of all is like half the defense. And just personality wise, he's a big personality. He walks in a room and everyone can feel him. From the perspective of who gets the guys together and goes, hey, this needs to stop, I think that's Nakobe Dean. Which is why I think Nakobe coming back has been so big for him. Like Zach Bond is a great player. I don't think he's that type of leader. Jalen Carter is a great player. I don't think he's that type of leader. No. Nakobe is like the alpha, in my opinion, of the defense.
Mm-hmm. Well, and of course BG is back now too, so he's the obvious guy to go to. But listen, I told you it was going to be the fastest half hour of your life, and it's over. Eliot, we appreciate you getting up on a short night's sleep and being with us. You were a tremendous guest, and we're going to continue to follow the Eagles and root them on
coming up.
Another Super Bowl.
I know.
Is Cowboy Week still a thing or no?
Cowboy Week is.
I don't think they're good enough. Yeah.
Hey, listen, Eagles are catching the Cowboys on a short week again because they're playing on Monday night. So things always seem to break the Eagles' way these days, which is okay by me. So for my partner, Mark Eckel, I'm Ken Dunek. Thanks for watching the Bird Brains.